Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jada Blossom, and it is day one of our April 2025 release. Hey, so I'm using Jada Blossom's new Gnome Wedding Day stamp set, the new Gnome Dies Bride and Groom, Jada Blossom's Mushroom Dies, their Rainbow Dies, their Car Dies Cruiser, their Car Dies Off-Road Vehicle, and their Gnome Dies. And I'm using the P13 stamping pad skin tones that you can get in the Jada Blossom store. So first of all, I'm going to somewhat put together these little gnomes. I really only need the top part of them because they're going in the car. So I cut the backgrounds out like partially with American Crafts black cardstock, and now I'm adding paper tray ink smoky shadow cardstock, which is like a dark gray for the hat. Now I have some distress ink and gathered twigs, and I'm going to ink around the brown beard that was cut from American Crafts brown cardstock. So I'm just going to ink around the edge. There we go. Just so that mustache pops. Now I have the little shirt part. Now this doesn't show at all. So you can watch me assemble these real guys on the assembly video, but I like to cut a little V in the blazer and then add it to a white background. And then when you add the lapels, it looks like there's a shirt underneath there. But like I said, this is totally redundant because it's hidden by the car. Had I thought about it, I would have realized, but you know, these are the things you learn, right? So I'm just going to be doing some extra assembly that I really don't need to be doing because a lot of it is covered by the car. Okay, so I'm going to add on my little shirt. And then the beard lines up perfectly underneath that hat brim. So I'll add that hat or add the beard down with some Barely Art glue, add the mustache down so it's slightly overlapping that brim of the hat a bit. And this little hat band, that was cut from, what's it cut from? Oh, it's like a shimmer cardstock, like a white shimmer cardstock from American Crafts. Oh, there it is. It's from Recollections. It's called Christmas Shimmer 6-inch pad. Okay, so now I'm adding on the little nose. That's that P13 stamping pad skin tones. I did cut the little bow tie out, thinking it was going to show, but it does not. The bow tie was cut from Smoky Shadow. So there's my little groom. And now I'm going to put together my little bride. So I cut it out of American Crafts black cardstock just for the base. It doesn't show. Use whatever you want. Next, I'm using white paper tray ink cardstock. There it is. And I do weight it down in between. And then this part is cut from P13 stamping pad skin tones, just so her, you know, the upper part of her chest is skin tone. And then I added the white paper tray ink cardstock dress. And then these layers were cut from that same Recollections white shimmer. So it just makes it look shimmery and pretty. But of course it doesn't show behind this car, so it's kind of silly, right? But remember, you can watch me put the Gnome Dies Bride and Groom together on the assembly video that I made for that. So check that out. Okay, so there we go. And now next you're going to overlap the little face. It slightly covers the chest a bit, right about there. Then the hairdo, that's cut from American Crafts yellow cardstock. And I'm just going to glue that down. Now the little tiara was put together using holographic cardstock, or it's called holographic mirror paper from scrapbook.com, and it's gold. So there's that. So I'm going to add that to the bride. And then the bride has a little tiny nose in this set that you can use. And, you know, you could use the bigger nose, but the tinier nose looks better. So I've got the little nose that I will pop up with Stampin' Up! Dimensional. And you overlap the hair a little bit, and there you go. So there's your little bride. And I'm adding on the arms just because I figured the shoulders would show. So I'm just going to slip that behind and over the top and like stick it down. I'm going to use my reverse tweezers to hold it in place. Now, all my die cutting today was done with my Anagraph and Empress machine, working on a Stampin' Up! Pad, doing all the things I normally do. So I'm slipping in that last hand. There we go. Okay, so there's the bride. And we're going to have her sitting in the car. So next I'm going to put together this Car Dies Cruiser. And I use the Car Dies off-road vehicle just for the license plate. So first I'm putting these together. So that steering wheel was cut from Simon Says Stamp black glossy cardstock. And then the car itself is cut from Recollections red mirror cardstock, because I thought that would look fun. And then the little tires are American Crafts black cardstock, so I'm lining that up. I'm just using one of my embellishment tools to pick it up and glue them down. And I do weight it down. Now next, I'm adding on the two little side mirrors, and I cut those from silver cardstock from the holographic mirror paper from scrapbook.com. A lot of companies have mirror paper. You know, use what you have. There we go, and then I do weight it down in between. And now I'm going to add on the little headlights that I cut from that same Recollections Christmas shimmer pad. It's a 6-inch pad, and it has all these different colors in it, and I'm using white. So it's just a white shimmer paper or cardstock, which I think looks really good, you know, as headlights. So I'm just adding those on. And then next I'm going to add the hood of the car. And basically we're just building this little car. So, you know, I like to use lots of glue, weight things down so they dry flat, you know, all the tricks. And then I'm going to do some more assembly. This is American Crafts black cardstock. I use a lot of scraps when I'm assembling dies. I don't know if you guys do, but I have like these scraps that are sitting right on my desk. I kind of sort them by color. So before I go and cut a new sheet of paper, I'll kind of go through there and see if I can use up scraps. And that's the nice thing about all these gnome dies and their add-ons, because there's lots of little pieces and you could use your scraps up. Okay, so next, this is that silver mirror cardstock again. That's that same scrapbook.com holographic paper. It's a little bit thinner, like it's not super thick, so it can curl up. So you're going to want to weight it down. Although the nice thing is it doesn't add too much weight to your die cuts. So like there's pluses and minuses to everything. So I'm going to add on the bumper that's cut from the same paper. And I'm just sort of layering them in place, gluing everything down and getting everything in the right spot. So I am thinking this adorable new wedding release from Jada Blossom was a long time coming. Super fun. And you know, wedding season is, you know, comes every year. And if you need a wedding card, a bride and groom for your scrapbook layouts, you know, all the things, this is your set. These are your sets. So I'm going to add in these last two pieces from the bumper. And that's that same silver mirror cardstock. And just adding those in place. And I've got one more piece to add. Now you could also like put a bride on the cart and use it for a wedding shower, right? That would be fun. So next I'm going to add on this last little bumper piece. The only drag about the paper being thinner is that it does curl up and it makes it a little bit tricky. But you know, just lots of glue, weight it down. And once everything's stuck down, it's fine. You don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to add this next little piece on. This is American Crafts black cardstock. There, it's sort of the undercarriage or whatever you want to call it. And then I do weight it down. And then I'm going to add this bumper piece on next with the Barely Art glue. And we're going to glue that down. So we're starting to look a little bit more like a little flashy car that the bride and groom are going to drive away in, right? So there is that piece. Lots of fun. So next I went ahead and I cut out the little license plate using white paper trank cardstock, and I'm going to stamp in black VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink using my Misty. One of the sentiments from the, what's it called, Gnome Wedding Day stamp set. So it's kind of fun. It's like there's a few little sentiments that you can fit into the little license plate, so that's perfect. So I'm going to stamp that. So it says just married. So this is going to be my only sentiment on the front of my card. I just think it's lots of fun, right? So I will add that to my car. Oh, sorry, I actually cut it out twice just to make it a little bit thicker. And then I will add that to my car after I weight it down for a bit. So now I'm going to stick together this car using some more Bearly Art glue. Okay, so lots of glue here. And the nice thing is if it smooshes out, you can lick your finger and literally wipe it off this mirror cardstock. Like you know, before it sets, you can just sort of wipe it off. So, and it doesn't leave any marks when you do that. So that's kind of handy. So I am going to use my reverse tweezers just to clamp these things down. And there we have it. Okay, so now we have a cute little car. So next I'm going to add some ATG tape to the back just so I can arrange my bride and groom. There. So I am going to have my groom driving, and you'll see that his whole little, you know, front of his tuxedo doesn't even show. So it was kind of a waste of time. As for the bride, I'm going to slip her in as well. Trying to decide where she's going to go. There it is. And you'll see that most of her doesn't show either. So I probably could have saved myself the layers on that dress and everything on, you know, but you know, you live, you learn, right? Okay, so I'm going to add some of this score tape, this 1/8 of an inch score, or no, I changed my mind. I'm using some Bearly Art glue, and I'll stick down the top of that windshield down on our gnomes. There. And now I'm going to cut off anything that's not, you know, that you don't need behind the car. And there we have the two super cute gnomes. And now I'm going to pop up the little hands of the boy gnome with some dimensionals from Stampin' Up. So these are the little tiny ones. Perfect size to fit behind those gnome hands. And we're going to have this guy driving. I guess I could have had my bride driving, right? But there it is. And isn't that cute? And now next I'm going to add on this little license plate. And I'm going to use my score tape because, you know, I don't have to weight it down. It'll be stuck down perfectly well just with that. So I'm going to line that up on the bumper. And isn't that cute? So just married. And there is my thing. So this is a 3 3/4 inch circle that I cut out of vellum. Now I have masking dies, but if you could think or not masking dies, masking stencils, but I could not find them, like they have walked. So I used a circle, and I cut a 3 3/4 inch circle out of a piece of vellum, and I'm going to use that to ink blend. So I'm just taping it in place with some mint tape, and I'm using Distress Oxide ink and Scattered Straw, Worn Lipstick, and Festive Berries. So I'm going to start with the yellow. Whoops. Sorry, I'm just going to get another piece of that mint tape down. I just want to make sure nothing moves. And like I said, Scattered Straw is where I'm going to start, right at the top, and I'm going to ink blend on this circle. I'm sort of making my own background now for this car, like it's driving off into the sunset sort of thing. Although the sunset's kind of behind them, but you get the gist. Next, I'm going to ink blend Worn Lipstick, overlapping the yellow. It doesn't have to be perfect because I will go back with the yellow and kind of ink blend those two together. Then next, I'll use the Festive Berries, and I'm going to bring that in from the bottom, and I will overlap the Worn Lipstick a bit. And I'll bring the Worn Lipstick back in just to kind of, blend things together. I'm actually bringing up the worn lipstick a little higher. This is what happens when you're ink blending, right? I realize I've got a car and I want some of the different colors to show behind the car. So there we are, and I'm happy with that. Now this is on a paper tray ink white A2 size card base, 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5 inches. Okay, so next I'm pulling out Speckled Egg Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to ink blend that around the edges. Doesn't have to be too close to that, sun. I just want to show that there's some blue sky around it. So I'm just being careful, and that's perfectly fine. Next I'm pulling out paper from Echo Park. This is called Wedding. It's a 6-inch pad. And I'm going to add a 1-inch strip to the inside of this card. There it is. And I'm going to add that to the inside, about 1/4 inch from the bottom, something like that, using my ATG tape. Sorry, I keep hitting my camera. So there it is, and I will cut off that overhang with a pair of scissors. Okay, now I am going to refold that with my Teflon bone folder. Now I have some green cardstock. This is Basil Bling, but I'm using the not the shiny side, I'm using the green side of this cardstock. And I used the Mushroom Dyes Grassy Hill, and I cut that. And now I'm going to be adding a grassy hill, and I want to see roughly where that car is going to be, and I want to slip in my grassy hill behind it. So I've got kind of, a scenic background happening. So I'm going to add that to my card base. And I will cut off the overhang with a pair of scissors here. Obviously, I made this bigger than I needed to, but, sometimes it's easier to, you can cut stuff away. It's adding, you can't really add to it, right? So unless you're perfect and get it right the first time, you kind of don't want to mess it up. So there we go. Now I have a 1-inch strip of American Crafts black cardstock that I'm going to add to the bottom of this. And that is going to be my road. There. So it'll kind of look like they're driving on a road down the center of these two grassy hills, because remember the card covers the middle, right? So, I don't have to add that black road behind. So I'm going to add that to the bottom, and I will trim off any overhang with a pair of scissors again, right? Kind of making room for everything that you want to fit in on your card front. And I will trim off the rest of it here with my scissors. Oops. And now we've got a fun scenic background. So I am going to stamp a sentiment on the inside of this card using my Misty. And here it is. And I'm going to stamp on Happy Wedding Day. So I'm just sort of lining that up. And I'm also going to stamp Happily Ever, and They Lived Happily Ever After as well. So 2 sentiments. And I'm using VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. There it is. So I'm going to stamp that and stamp it in place. There we go. So kind of fun, right? That's the nice thing about a Misty. You can keep stamping to make sure you get it right. Just don't press too hard and flatten it out. You know how it is. And there it is. So isn't that fun? Now I have a piece of like a Post-it on the inside just to protect my card base until that sentiment dries. Now I have some white clouds cut from Paper Tray Ink white cardstock. And that is from the Rainbow Dies set from Jada Blossom. These are my favorite clouds. They look like cartoon clouds. I'm going to slip them in behind where my car is going to sit. And visual triangles, I want 3. And then I will cut off the overhang with a pair of scissors. I just think it adds a little something to the background. It's just kind of fun, right? There they all are. And I will weight that down with an acrylic block. And now that it is kind of dry, I will trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. And whoops, there it is. Okay, and one more piece. And then we're pretty much set. Now we just have to add our main image, which is our little wedding couple in the fun little car. So we're going to get that in place. And I'm going to stick that down with some more ATG tape. And we will have a super cute little card front, I think. So just sort of covering it really well because I do have a lot of layers going on. And I don't want anything kind of popping off, right? So there it is. And I will line that up on the little street in front of it. And I think it's just super fun, don't you think? And I realize I'm going to have to add some dimensionals behind these guys because they are kind of popped up a bit. So I will sort of slip them in with my little tweezers. That's the nice thing about these tweezers, right? Kind of slip them in place. And I'll do the same thing with my gnome as well. And then I think we will have a super cute card for day one of the Jada Blossom April 2025 release. So super cute stuff, right? And now I am going to pull out another one here to sort of slip behind the bumper. This is when I start to zhuzh, see if I need to add anything, right? Add any, dimensionals to take up some of the height. I don't want anything to get squashed, although you tend to give wedding cards by hand, right, at the wedding. So you don't have to mail it, but just trying to make sure I have enough of these dimensionals beside everything. And I'm, cutting off some more here just to fit them in where I need them. And I think we are good. So now I'm pulling out, these are from Doodlebug. These are tiny hearts, and I'm going to add a couple of red ones to the license plate. And then I will add 3 of the white ones in my sunset, just over my couple. And there it is. So I think that turned out super cute. And I'm going to pull out my Secure White Jelly Roll pen and add a few highlights as well. And then I think we will be done. This is kind of like the never-ending card, right? Although if you had your main image put together, it really wouldn't have taken very long. So I'm just adding on these little highlights here and there. I'm going to add some to the street as well. And I think that is good. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jada Blossom blog and be inspired by the team. The Jada Blossom store to get your hands on these amazing products. And thanks as always for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. Make sure you check out more over at YouTube. Bye, everybody.